Tommy G is an up-and-coming YouTuber whose channel has now rose to over 546,000 subscribers. With uploads dating back to 2015, Tommy's content on his channel took on a variety of forms while he was finding his place within the platform, consisting mostly of pranks and his own original music. However, Tommy would find his niche and gain the traction he was really looking for this past year when he would drop his documentary on the Kia Boys of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, a group of delinquent teenagers known in the area for habitual grand theft auto and vandalism of their city. On his channel, the video would rack up millions of views. From this video and on, Tommy has zoned in on the YouTube mini doc lane and now has one of the fastest growing channels on the platform. But before the story of Tommy G the YouTuber, there's a story of Tommy G the wrestler. Tommy's story begins in Crystal Lake, Illinois. Tommy began wrestling in his preteens, and when he soon realized the mental and physical toughness the sport required, he decided to lean into it. By his senior year, Tommy would finish fourth at the Illinois High School State Wrestling Tournament and would continue his wrestling career by joining the team at the University of Wisconsin-Whitewater. During his time at UW-Whitewater, Tommy would make leaps and bounds, first cracking the lineup as a lower recruited freshman to becoming a two-time national qualifier, making the round of 12 his senior campaign. Showing no signs of slowing down, we invited Tommy G to come on the show and speak on his journey, all the way from his youth Mac Club days to now, where he's a defining face in the YouTube documentary genre, and how wrestling pushed him to get there.
All right, what's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another special episode. We got a special guest. We're so excited to have this guy on. We've been talking about him for a while now. I don't think he knows us or not. We haven't really got to know Tommy G yet, but we're going to get familiar with him today. Tommy G, how you doing?
Life is good, man. Always good to be talking to wrestlers, and I'm happy to speak with you today.
Yeah, you having a good day today?
Mostly pretty good. Like everything in life, right? You get some wins, you get some losses, but I'm battling a couple things, wrestling with a couple things, shall we say, on the censorship front, maybe with YouTube and the content of my documentary. So I'm gonna have to be a good boy and tighten up. Otherwise, I'm gonna be permanently deleted from the platform. So I'm gonna do my best to avoid that.
Wow. Well, we definitely don't want to start there. We don't want to start with what seems like something serious. So, Tommy, for the people that don't know in the wrestling community, who are you?
So my name is Tommy G. I am a documentary filmmaker on YouTube, but I am also a big part of my identity. Probably the biggest part of my identity is wrestling. I started when I was 10 years old. There was a kid on my Little League baseball team named Reese Diedzik, who had the biggest biceps on the team, and we asked him how he got such big muscles, and he said, "I'm a wrestler." So I joined the Crystal Lake Wizards in Crystal Lake, Illinois, which happened to be just a phenomenal kids club. Like so many D1 and just top-notch guys came out of that program, state champions, and I fell in love instantly. I was like a guy that just loved to wrestle, loved to practice. And I wrestled from when I was 10 all the way through college, and now I coach it at a jiu-jitsu gym, and I've coached kids and from middle school, high school, and whatnot. But I love the sport.
Did you grow up around wrestling? Did your family wrestle, brothers, sisters, anything like that?
So I think my pop wrestled when he was in Wisconsin for a year or so, but it was more of a football guy. And I didn't really know what it even was until that experience on the baseball team. So I had no idea. Like, people thought wrestling was jumping and hitting each other with chairs, and and wrestling was still kind of the unknown weird sport, I feel like, at the time, because the UFC didn't put it on the map as like, whoa, these guys are actually tough and they mean business. I feel like it was still more of a mysterious, what are you doing rolling around in there kind of a thing.
Okay, so you grew up wrestling in you said the Wizards. Is it Wizards Club? Is that the name, Wizards Club, you said?
The Crystal Lake Wizards, yeah.
Crystal Lake Wizards.
Consistent top 50 in the nation kids program.
Okay, and so what made you decide to choose that specific club? Because for some people, maybe your audience maybe not know, but there's like local clubs and there's more serious clubs where, kids who want to take it to the next level outside of just a weekly exercise and whatnot. When did you realize that you were going to go kind of the more serious route and you were going to take this thing all the way to college?
So at that time, there wasn't as many private kids clubs. Like Overtime had just started, I think, in Illinois around that time. And then, a bunch of the off-season summer clubs were starting. But going to your local kids club is just what you did, I think, when I was growing up. And so and as far as what made me take it more serious, it was just, a sport that I just absolutely love. And I love being the workhorse in the room. So, and it was a sport that rewarded that. So to be able to be kind of a pud when I started, to grow into a pretty good wrestler. By the time I left high school, I took fourth in the state of Illinois at 152. And I think I ended the season at 42-2 that year. So I knew that I wanted to keep doing it. And it was just a matter of where I was going to go next with it.
I feel like in every person's wrestling career, there's a defining moment. There's a defining like tournament, or whether it's a match or a dual meet where you're like, oh, wait a minute, I kind of belong with the top tier wrestlers in my state or my area. Was there ever a match where you went out there and maybe you had doubt in your mind and you proved yourself wrong, or maybe other people doubted you and you proved them wrong? Was there a certain match or tournament or anything where you kind of had your coming out party of like, hey, I'm one of the more elite guys in this state? Because you did place fourth in Illinois, that's really good.
It stands out to me more in college, like beating All-Americans, beating the national champ twice, beating fifth and sixth place guy at the national tournament, or that took that at the national tournament. I'm trying to remember if there was a particular match in my high school career that really, I'm sure I beat ranked kids that on paper I had no business beating, and that just further bolstered my confidence. But my mentality was always, if it's going to go 3 periods, that I can beat anybody, because I was a guy that would wear people down, and really tough on top, and I could pin a lot of people, I could tech a lot of people with turns, and the longer I could grind on somebody, the better I felt about the match.
Okay, and where does that endurance aspect come from for you? Were your parents into like marathons or triathlons or anything like that? Or have you always just been a dog? Because big dogs got to eat, right?
Big dogs got to eat, baby. Yeah. Actually, my pop was a big boy, so I think it just came from. I just loved work. Like, I was a guy that for fun, in high school, I would get my friends together and I would do car pushes in my street. I would get, put the windows down, put some music on, and we'd do car pushes for a workout. Or I'd find a hill and I'd do a bunch of hills. And I always wanted to be the guy that was known as the hardest worker on the team. And I just had an obsession with getting that extra workout in and doing the crazy stuff. Like, okay, how many push-ups can I do in a day? How long can I go on the Stairmaster at level 20? Those type of things. So I enjoyed just finding where my limits were.
Okay. And I feel like for some people, like I've always wondered this with cardio. I feel like some people have to work really insanely hard to have good cardio. And then we all know that one kid in the room where they didn't really have to do much. They just always magically happen to have cardio or gas in the tank. What's your opinion on that? Do you feel like genetically people have some sort of, maybe have more of a boost than other people when it comes to cardio? Or do you think that that's something that's strictly, hard work?
I think it's almost like if you're looking at Madden attributes, I think there's always different starting points. Like someone might have they might be very strong, but weak in cardio, and then their technique is what they put in. But I think everything can be, or all those advantages can be erased with hard work, and erased, if my opponent is really, really strong, but you get him to a point where he's tired, he's not that strong anymore. I think you can overcome that. But I do think body types matter. Like because I'm tall, skinny for a wrestler, I think I'm more suited to be the cardio guy than the guy that's maybe 5'5" and carrying around a lot of muscle. So I think, because muscle fatigues, like you'll always be that guy that shows up to the table, like he looks jacked as hell and he has tattoos already. He's 16. You're like, oh God, this is going to be an interesting match. But then after the first period, the guy's toast and you can just do whatever you want to him. So on the flip side, I was never the guy that could just lift you 20 feet in the air and slam you. I never had that that powerful wrestling style. It was more of like a leverage and grind and move kind of style.
I also want to know this. At some point in every wrestler's career, I feel like you have to start thinking about, the future. Are you going to continue to go on in college? Are you going to continue on post-college and try the Olympic stuff? Are you going to choose freestyle? Are you going to choose Greco? Like, are you going to go into coaching and this and that? When did you decide that you were going to start doing content?
I always had a knack for trying to make people laugh. And my content initially started in more of the prank category. So I mean, even since I was a little kid, I remember like having a fake electric mouse that could zap people and inviting kids over to my house when I was like 12 years old and having them play a computer game and get zapped. And I think we caught that on some like potato of a camera and filmed that. But and then in college, I started doing content more seriously. And then just about 10 months ago, I made the documentary shift because I'd always been interested in, I'm fascinated by endless amounts of people. I mean, you can take me to Dagestan and show me that wrestling room. I'd love to cover that. You can take me and put me in a tribe in the jungle. I would love to document that. And so I think just what wrestling gave me is the confidence to pursue all of that and feel like I'll be okay. You know, I'll be tough enough. I'll be strong enough. I'll be able to outlast whatever the situation is.
So when you started making those prank videos early on, like when you think back to the earliest days of you picking up a camera, you said a potato, you know, it was like really not great quality, I'm sure, back in those days, but were you doing it more so for the fact of like entertaining your friends and family, or did you fall in love with the act of like editing a video or come up with the concept? Was it the whole idea? Because, you know, this might be a little inside baseball for some people, but, you know, we're interested in that kind of thing. But like, what made you want to start even putting these funny pranks and stuff on camera, I guess? And like, was it just coming up with the whole concept?
Yeah, I guess I've always had this brain that thinks, like right as I'm going to bed, I'll have a bunch of ideas coming to my mind, and I have myself saved as a contact. So anytime I have an idea, I just type in me in the message and I message it to myself so that I don't forget it. Because I think ideas are this weird little creature that if you don't remember it, you don't write it down at the time that you get it, sometimes it disappears, it never comes back, or it doesn't come back for a while. And so I would always just like stay up and I'd just start laughing about an idea and I'd write it down. I'm like, okay, I got to go shoot this. But as far as getting on the more technical side of it, like, because I would say, you know, I wasn't the Rubik's Cube of content. Like I wasn't putting together these complex layers and trying to make it happen. It was more just do the bit and make it happen. But when COVID hit, I said, okay, if I'm going to be locked in my house against my will, I'm going to buy a computer and learn how to edit and take control of that side of the process too. And that's actually been something that I wouldn't have thought I would have loved to do, but I actually really love the editing side of creating the story, thinking about, okay, when we go into this idea, we're going to have to get these different shots. We're going to want to we're going to want to do a drone shot here. These 3 spots might be good for a voiceover transition. Like putting together more of the complex layers has actually become a really fun part of the process.
Did you ever get like anxiety around a wrestling match or a competition or anything like that? Did you ever get like the nerves like everybody gets, you know? Did you get that?
Yeah, it was ridiculous. I used to hate competing because it was so bad. It was from when I was 10 till probably, I don't know if it was my senior year of high school that I finally conquered a lot of it. But I mean, when I was a little kid wrestling, it would be like they called it the bullpen at that time, I think, where they put all the little kids back in the room and you'd line up and like the tough kid in the bracket would be, you know, talking smack to everyone. Everyone else would just be like against the wall, especially the little kids like only wearing the singlet, like nothing else, you know, you're just back there. And I think, yeah, like I would have to run back and forth to the bathroom like 50 times before my match. I wanted to throw up. I had to piss every 2 seconds and I hated that. And then I finally came to the realization, I'm like, look, man, of everyone in this room, you're probably the only one that's going to remember this tomorrow. And so all you got to do is go out there, do your best, have fun. And especially when I was a freshman in college, cracking the starting lineup and no one expected me to be there. I was on the lower end of the recruited kids there. And I was going up against a kid that ended up being a 2-time All-American, and no one expected me to beat him. And when I snuck out that match by the skin of my teeth, it was just like no one expects me to be in. It was kind of like a F you attitude of like, I have nothing to lose. Like I'm just going to show you what I can do.
Do you still get that same level of nerves when you go out and film? And you got some crazy videos on your YouTube, I'm not going to lie. You know, you even look at the titles and you're like, what's this? You know, it just cracks me up when I see your title and thumbnail. Just the execution is really top tier. And then you click it and the content delivers. You probably don't know this, but anytime me or Tyler run into somebody from Milwaukee, our new icebreaker is, have you heard of the Kia Boys? and I'm not kidding you, dude. It's like 100% of the people in Milwaukee know who the Kia Boys is. But do you get nerves, and do you get that same feeling, in your stomach of, when you go to wrestle a match, as you would if you go to visit, let's say, the Kia Boys?
I would say first, a little context to the audience that's listening. Some of my documentaries include filming teenage car thieves, going to Chicago to a trap house where a guy is selling fentanyl and I'm watching junkies in front of me use the product they just bought. And, gangster, being around like 25 gangsters that have guns on them, some of them like going to the most dangerous city in the country with the highest murder rate, different things like that, and where anything can go down. So of course I'm scared. But I think it's definitely more controlled. Like, sometimes I'm doing like breathing technique. Like I'm just like in the car ride there, just, being cool. Cause your vibe depends on it. Like you got to, if you show up like I don't know what I'm allowed to say on this show, pretty much anything or.
Yeah.
Okay. If you show up like a little bitch to these places, they're going to be like, well, why the hell did you show up? And they're not going to respect you. So you just got to roll with it. And the other thing is, I know going in there that people want to share their story. So people are going to make sure that I'm protected, because if something happens on their watch, they're the ones that look like the bitch to their neighborhood. So like they kind of have a stake in making sure I'm okay. But certainly you walk into some of these situations and like, especially the first minute or so of breaking the ice and just feeling out who's who. Once things get rolling, it becomes really easy. I can be very calm and what it looks like a very chaotic situation. The only thing that really scares me is if you're with like actively beefing gang members, guys that are outside. Every car that goes by, and they're like I was in a situation in Louisville where there's an active rap beef happening, and I'm talking to them, I'm interviewing them, and all of a sudden, like I see it in their eyes, they all start pulling guns out because when a car goes by, and I'm just like, oh God, is a drive-by about to happen? But they didn't recognize one of their neighbors, and so they're like, oh, there was nothing, But it was like, holy shit, I can't believe that almost happened.
Wow. Does it feel like you are more accustomed to that now, I guess, since you've been doing this for a while?
Yeah, you get desensitized by enough exposure to probably everything. And I think the thing that rolls in my favor, especially as the channel grows, is more and more people they see it as an opportunity to be on the show. So, and I get the opportunity to vet people. So it's been like one lesson I've learned from the Kia Boy video and from the Most Dangerous City in America video is no more doing this with teenage maniacs. Like these kids are they're too like stupid young men. They're they don't have enough sense to make it worth your time to do it, just because you never know what reckless stuff is going to happen. So like the goal now is, okay, find the guy that's kind of the OG of the area, who's maybe he's had his time, but he's over being very violent, and he just wants to show a story, share a location, be a lot more calm about it, I think is the way to go.
How do you even begin to get a lead on something like that?
A lot of these guys just DM me, and they'll just be like, oh, yo, come to my hood, come do this, come do that. And then depending on what it is, like the Chicago Trap House guy, I put it on my story because I was just really dying to do a story like that, but I didn't want to do it in Milwaukee because it was too hot to, like, if anything went wrong when the video was posted and it was in my own city, it just was too scary to like, oh, I have a wife, I have a dog. Like, I just want to make sure this is a little farther away from home. So I put on my story, interested in going to a trap house. Anyone in Chicago got one? And this guy DM'd me, and he ended up being my connection to the trap house video and then into a pimps and prostitutes video. And we still talk today. Like, as much as we might think a guy that deals heroin or fentanyl is a piece of shit, I like this guy. Like, I wouldn't like trust him to babysit my children, but I think like if we had a dinner together, let's say all of us on this call were on a dinner with this guy as well, I don't think you would meet him and be like, oh, he's a horrible human being. So it just made me reconsider some of the boxes you put people in based off of what they do. But then I also have met people that are just like hopelessly gone on their morals. Like I had a conversation in the back of a car with a pimp And he just had no sense of empathy for anything he was doing. Like, I asked him, like, have you ever felt bad for one of your bitches? And he just like, I never felt bad for one of my bitches. And I was just like, what a ridiculous thing to say, dude. Like, you're literally out there taking 100% of their money and you're being a little parasite leech and you think you're a boss. Like, so, but then I wonder, like, what happened to this guy as a kid? And not that it gives him a total pass on what he's doing, but my guess is he had a horrific childhood. And it just makes me like, who is responsible? Obviously the individual is responsible, but like the parents, like I just stayed up last night. I read the biography of this pimp named Iceberg Slim, and a horrific story, but I couldn't sleep. I couldn't put it down. But when he was 3 years old, he got molested by his mom, and his mom left his only good male role model, the stepdad that loved him and wanted to take care of him, to go stay with a pimp. And then like, it's like, well, of course this guy turned out the way he did. And I'm not, again, giving him a pass that he became the human he did, but it's a lot more complicated than we think sometimes.
Yeah, one thing I noticed in your videos that you're really good at is your ability to have kind of like the Slab City video comes to mind. I watched that the other night, and you were talking to a lot of people where you even mentioned it, where like it's introverts that also love to talk. They love to get things off their chest. But for you, you have a really good ability to keep conversating with them, even though they're getting off topic instantly. Like, you ask them a question, and they might answer it in 3 seconds, but then right after that, they're immediately going into something that has absolutely nothing to do with it. But your ability to kind of like put that to a side, but still try to weave through the things that they're saying. How do you do that?
Well, first of all, I appreciate that. And second of all, I guess like I'm genuinely curious about these people that I'm meeting up with. Like, I think there's an endless list of people on this earth that you can be curious about. And so like, I'm honestly having I'm having a good time hearing what this guy is telling me and learning more about why they think the way they do, what they think about the future, like just asking them all sort of questions. And then you end up getting a lot of funny answers unintentionally. Like I asked these a bunch of Haitian gangster dudes in Miami, or Fort Lauderdale, I should say. I asked them, what do you guys think about non-binary? And they're like, I've heard of non-dairy, but I ain't never heard of no non-binary. And so it's just funny some of the answers you get,
Yeah, I think you take that guy's answer and it sounds super funny, but at the same time, that's where he's at on the spectrum of answers. It's like, hey, that's not even really in my wheelhouse at all. The video that really got us talking about you though was the $1,000 takedowns in Miami Beach. I believe that it was. How nervous were you going into, I don't want to spoil the video, but going into the guy towards the end there that is quite a bit larger than you? How nervous were you going into that? Obviously you probably were going to have him with the skill set, but the size was quite a difference.
I was confident that unless some MMA fighter or college wrestler that was just fantastic was on that beach, which the chances were slim, that I should beat everybody. I mean, it should be, easy. But then you see this guy show up that's 7 feet tall, 320, 330 pounds, and you're just like, oh God, of everyone that could have showed up, of course this guy came. And then you got a crowd around, so it's like, all right, it's gonna happen. And I guess but once he took off his shirt and I could see, like I saw his body, it wasn't an athletic body, it wasn't like, oh, this guy's an athlete, this guy's putting in the work. Okay, I've taken down big tree trunks like this guy before. I think I should be okay.
Okay. And then we, not too long. So then, Tyler over here, he's the one who really put me onto you. After that, I started paying attention. He's like, yeah, apparently Tommy G was like, he's a wrestler. He did like a whole video about it, this and that. And then we see you on No Jumper not too long ago. And that's when we made that TikTok. And that's when we originally kind of reached out to you. And immediately you start talking about wrestling. And I feel like a lot of people, there's other people who have made it more mainstream and gotten to bigger platforms and this and that. And I feel like a lot of times they try to kind of push that wrestling stuff down. It seems like you see it a lot with MMA fighters because wrestlers are always trying to prove that they're not just a wrestler. So they try to really just kind of throw it away and just focus on other aspects of their game. And for whatever reasons they're not. Has it always been something that you want to give a shout out to when you're on a platform like No Jumper? Because I thought that was really cool, because for those people who don't know, No Jumper is a platform about, all kinds of things, but the majority of their audience is young males. And so to hear someone like you go on there and really tell kids like, this is the greatest, you said it was like the greatest influence you've had, single greatest influence you've had on your life to this point. Is that something that you always thought like, hey, if I get a chance to really scream this from the mountaintops, I'm going to?
It wasn't anything that was very planned, but just, it was something that was very obvious when he asked it. And I mean, I love the sport of wrestling. If my kids do it, I'd be thrilled. I'm not going to be a maniac and make them do any certain sport. I'm going to let them figure out what they want to do. But I really think if every kid had the opportunity to wrestle, or at least do something like jiu-jitsu or boxing or Muay Thai or whatever their fighting discipline is that they enjoy, I think the world would be a much better place. And like, I see so much potential. Like, a big question I always ask myself and my crew talks about after we go to a crazy hood and film something that just like, oh my gosh, like, how is this ever going to get any better? This just seems like it's going to be a nightmare place to live for all the people that live there for a long time. But it's like, I don't know, is wrestling an opportunity to improve a city? Like, if I think Mike Powell is doing this in an excellent fashion out for Beat the Streets in Illinois. And that guy, I love what he is doing. And if something like that could get implemented in Milwaukee, I think where I am building wise, it's not going to be me in the next couple years, but I could very well see, once I've rooted myself and become really financially independent and put my name on the game, that might very well be something that I seek to do, is build a state-of-the-art facility for kids. And because kids need discipline, especially their kids need discipline. Like, if you're talking about the hoodiest of the hood, these kids are dying for it. Like, they need mentors. They need something tough to do. They need something that's bigger than them to do. And they need something that actually going to push them in a positive direction. And so, like, when I look at the potential the sport of wrestling has to help the world, I'm like, it just gets me excited, man. Like, I really, I guess anything you focus on that makes you a disciplined person, that makes you have a higher goal in a positive direction, is going to be a help. But I think because wrestling is so tough, like, there isn't really a way to be half in the sport and be successful. If you want to be good, you got to be a grinder. And if you can get a bunch of kids that were previously taught, like, hey, your only way to succeed is to kind of terrorize your city and ride around with a pistol on you all day and hold people up or do this or that. And then you actually tell them, like, look, man, you're way more than that. You're way more than that. And through this sport, you're going to learn a lot about yourself, how tough you are, how strong you are, how smart you can be. Like, I just see a lot of exciting potential with it.
My co-host Tyler here, I've been telling you all about him here. He's got some questions for you.
I mean, I was kind of going to ask on the same note. I feel like watching your videos before, I could kind of see the hints of you letting you know, like, the influence of wrestling on you, like the underground tunnels in Las Vegas. You found that guy in the singlet, asked him about the significance of wrestling. It wasn't too significant to him, but you let people know it was significant to you. I think you said, like, oh, it's just comfy. But the beach wrestling one was the kind of the first one where you, like, directly kind of proclaimed with that intro, a whole edit intro about wrestling, like the significance of it to you. Was there any part as a content creator that you were kind of like hesitant to do such a thing? Because kind of like Zach, what he said before, like, a lot of people kind of want to put that away so they don't get the label.
No, I mean, to me, it was the opposite. I was incredibly excited to have the opportunity and try and share a sport. Like, I did this other challenge years ago called the $200 Knockout Challenge. And so basically the concept is I give someone boxing gloves. They're allowed to hit me. I'm not allowed to hit them. I can only take them down. If they knock me out, they get $200. If I take them down, it's free, nothing. And people got mad at that because, like, oh, you should let them go bare knuckle or MMA gloves. It's like, okay, buddy, you go out into the street and let people hit you with bare knuckles and do that challenge. I wasn't trying to beat anybody up. I was just trying to prove that while someone's punching you, you can subdue them without hurting them. And the more I can share wrestling and the work I do is phenomenal. And you brought up the Las Vegas tunnel connection. That was exactly what broke the video open, because before that we were very much struggling to try and talk to anybody in these underground tunnels. But as soon as I made the connection of, oh man, he's a wrestler, he's got the singlet, all of a sudden that warmed the waters, and boom, he gave us the next connections we need to go to the next set of tunnels, and that video took off.
Did the content creation career for you, did it overlap at all with college for you at any point? Did you still have those creative tendencies while you're in high school or college?
I think in high school I put out kind of at the time, the Dudesons and Jackass. The Dudesons were kind of the Finnish version of Jackass, and I love those guys. So I put out a little Jackass video inspired by them. In college, I put out some rap music videos that I wouldn't recommend you go check out. They're not exactly like the next Drake or anything like that.
I checked them out.
I've always had dreams of just sharing how I feel and creating and having some sort of unbounded outlet, because a lot of the jobs we can get in this world, you kind of have to color in the lines. And I've never been a guy that's been good at that. And so I think, so it never, actually, my senior year of college, I had a coach who, I love the guy, but we definitely butted heads at times when I was there. But he said, oh, the music video you have out is kind of a problem. You have to put it, you have to keep it on private until I think you're either out of here or you're the wrestling years. It was a college party type video. And looking back, I could see maybe why he said it. But at the time I was frustrated young man with that.
Yeah. I was actually going to ask you about that music video and if it was a problem or not. Cause I saw like 2015, you graduated like 2016 or so.
Yeah.
But I mean, I kind of want to talk about the music portion, because your first 5 or 6 uploads are music videos. But that music video, the very first upload you ever have, it's actually a really sweet music video with it being shot in 4K.
Yeah, I appreciate that. The guy I worked with was fantastic, and we had a wonderful time shooting it. And man, I think like the common thread is whatever the pursuit has been, I've been able to take the grinder and work ethic mentality from wrestling and put it into what I'm chasing after. So I always like that with writing lines and going to the studio. I always like that with editing and shooting these documentaries. Like when we go on these trips, man, I mean, it's me and 2 other guys, and we do like 14, 15-hour days. And we're just like 5 or 6 days, we'll get, 5 videos, 5 podcast interviews, a couple appearances on a show, and then boom, we're back to Milwaukee. And so like being able to lead the team with that mentality, and these guys are all for it. I mean, these guys are animals too. So it just works really well. But I can't see a place where wrestling's hurt me in life. You know what I mean? Like that's why it's so easy to promote it, is because it's just such it's a wonderful sport that's given me more than anything.
And then can you kind of take us through the progression of your content? I suppose it really evolved over the years, it looks like. And at first you were on the music, and then you went into pranks pretty heavy. And then this past year, the documentaries. Can you kind of just go through the evolution of that and what led that? Yeah.
So, I mean, similar to a good wrestling mentality, right? If I can turn you on top, but I can't take you down, I got to work on neutral, right? And so like, I think always knowing when to pivot and what to focus on is a good learning lesson from the sport. And so transitioning that into my content, knowing when to go into the next phase was really important. And I would say the biggest transition came, I had 80,000 subscribers from doing prank videos. I really, really wanted to do documentaries. Like I already done stuff off camera, like live with a tribe in the jungle or in Ecuador and do all sorts of wild stuff. Like I've always wanted to film that kind of stuff. But I just thought, oh man, if I show a documentary to these people that know me for prank videos, I don't think they're going to like it. But I was like, you know what? My channel was kind of dying on the prank side anyways. I have nothing to lose. I had a list of ideas that were under the headline, ideas that can change my life. And, the Kia Boys video is one of those ideas. Same with jumping out of an airplane while eating the world's spiciest chip. And I just decided to execute on those ideas. And going into documentaries, I think a lot of life is like finding what's your special recipe. And like Was I a decent rapper? Sure. Was I ever going to be the guy that was going to sell out an arena? Probably not. Was I a decent prankster? Sure. But for whatever reason, like I wasn't it was a crowded market. And for whatever reason, I wasn't the guy that was breaking through. But I quickly found out that like with my skill set, I can make best in class documentaries and do really well with them. And I can find my way into interesting communities, and I can put content out at a really fast pace. Like a lot of the companies that I would say compete with us are like Vice is $1 billion corporation with hundreds of employees. And so I feel like we're keeping things at a Vice level pace with basically a 5-man crew. And so it just is, again, the wrestler mentality of grinding, man.
Yeah. And I also just admire your ability for these documentaries, there's a level of trust they have to have. And I feel like a lot of times when you come out with the camera and multiple people, like that level of trust goes down right away, but you're able to build it back up. Like at the, like how many YouTubers have you seen do the furry convention one? But yours is like the only one where I've actually seen them just not immediately be freaked out and like tell security to get you away from them. How do you go about building that level of trust for like your subjects?
Well, first is, if I can, I like to have a few phone conversations, a few FaceTimes with the contact that we're meeting, especially if we're going somewhere very dangerous. It's like, I really want to know who this person is before I get surrounded by 20 people with guns, you know? So that's really important. But then also like on the stuff that's potentially illegal or dangerous, I do tell them like, look, man, when we put this together, I'll send you a copy of the documentary. And if, you know, like a perfect example would be Day in the Life of a Game Trapper, my friend, certified trapper in Milwaukee. We had to re-edit that video so many times, like the amount of blurs you see in that video to protect, like a garbage can had an address, like a number on it that said an address. We had to blur that out. This house had a noticeable color on it, so we had to blur that out. And so like whatever it took to make sure that when we put this out, he felt okay, that was very important to me. And so I think that's another thing is like I can send people 3 or 4 videos of like, hey, look how we blurred out this prostitute's face at the 12-minute mark. Look how we blurred out this address in this video. Whatever you need to feel comfortable, we're going to make sure you feel comfortable. And so that goes a long way.
All right, Tommy, I know we said 20, 30 minutes, but we're trying to pick your brain as much as we can. We're almost done here.
I'm all ears, man. And I'm sorry I was late, so keep on rolling, whatever you need.
All good, man. So with most people's wrestling careers, they have a goal. It's a very goal-oriented sport, whether that's make varsity, whether that's get so many wins, whether that's get 30 wins your senior year. Shout out to me. That was my goal. It's the only goal I completed. But for you, what's your YouTube goal? Do you have like, I mean, you could say, you know, just put out the best videos possible. That's kind of Mr. Beast's answer. But if there's like one, is there a number? Is it money? Is it views? Is it subscribers? Or is it just pure happiness? What's the goal for you in YouTube?
So there's a few. One is to be able to live this lifestyle that allows me freedom and purpose in what my occupation is. So that's really important to me, is to actually do a job that I care about, because I've done a lot of jobs where I could care less about. The second piece of it would be just putting out undeniable, like, how did he get into that community type of documentaries. And so there's people on the list. Like I actually just had a member of the Proud Boys email me this morning and say, hey, we're talking to the officers in the group. If they approve, we're open to this. I talked to a guy yesterday the church speaks in tongues, and I'm skeptical, but hey, I want to go check that out. And, you know, there's guys in the KKK I want to talk to. I want to go into prisons and all around the world, but also in the United States. I want to interview murderers and people that have done horrific things. So like I think there's topic ideas that are still outstanding goals that I want to hit. And then of course on the other side is I want to make an income that allows my family to be independent and live well. And like, to me, what living well is, I can buy a steak anytime I want. I can buy any amount of ribeyes I want. I can go to a nice Airbnb with my wife. If I want to do that 3 times a year, 4 times a year, if I want to get my friends together and buy an Airbnb out in the woods and cover it, like I want to be able to do that kind of stuff and build community. So I don't really care if I have a Mercedes-Benz or if I have a 15-room mansion. Obviously, I would like to live on some land one day. I want to have some peace and quiet and space. But I think the big goal is just to keep my foot on the gas. I think we live in an era right now that trying to tell the truth and trying to just share the raw realities of the world with people is very important, because the truth is attempted to be censored or people don't want to hear it. And I think the only way we get better as a society is to look ourselves in the mirror, to look at each other and like, does this guy need to be held accountable? Is it a teenager stealing a car? Yes, but what should be the punishment? How should we as a community react to it? What's the appropriate countermeasures? Like, I really think maybe to inspire more conversations about how we treat each other, because at the end of the day, like what I see in a lot of these people is this guy isn't that much different than me, or okay, I see just another kid, like even the Kia boy that was like just a bad kid by all measures, like just a bad kid. But I also was like, man, he's funny, he's brave, he's bold. He could be good at a lot of different stuff if you just push him in the right direction. So that was kind of my long-winded answer, but that's it.
Right on. All right. Lastly here, I got a pitch for you. So we do this thing called StaleMates Street League, which is essentially, think of it like Rough and Rowdy that Barstool does. Are you familiar with that at all? So,
sure, okay.
So we started doing this in 2021.
Yep.
And we've done 3 now. Our first one sold out here in Des Moines, and we did 2 more after that. And we've taken on different matches throughout time, and it's basically like a dual meet. Think of like a dual meet, but there's no team score or nothing like that. None of that matters. And we get different matchups that are interesting. So we've had like high level guys like Kyvan Gatson, NCAA champion, wrestle Willie Miklas, who was an All-American. So we have kind of that high level, all the way down to we had 2 moms that have never wrestled before wrestle, and we sell tickets and this and that. And one year we tried to do like an influencer card kind of on the tail of the Jake Paul stuff, right? And we had this TikToker with I don't know how many million,
a million something anyway.
Yeah, million something TikTok followers, and he was going to wrestle this Bellator fighter and this and that. Would you ever compete in something like that? And who's somebody that you would call out?
I'm not a man with many enemies, so I'm trying to think who would be a good guy to call out. I'd be open to competing on that for sure. As far as who's like, man, I didn't prep this side of the show business. Probably the executives at YouTube that are giving me strikes on my content. Let's put them out in the ring.
Okay,
I'll take them down.
Can you get their we're going to get their email and then we'll get it set up. All right.
CEO of YouTube. Yeah. I'll meet you anytime, any place in Des Moines, Iowa at this Rumble Fest.
Man, I was hoping it was going to be like Brandon Buckingham or Caden Henschel. Or
I thought maybe Danny Mullen would be
the answer.
Danny Mullen.
I like Danny Mullen. That would be the ideal situation would be to get Brandon and Danny, because they have an outstanding beef.
Yes.
So it wouldn't be right for me to take care of that with Danny. So I would say Brandon and Danny would be an excellent fit. I would love to wrestle. I could wrestle Jake Paul, but I think we're in a different stratospheres right now in the career. I think maybe if I cover ground, it might be feasible. But by the next time you ask me, hopefully I'll have a better answer for you.
Cool, man. Well, we appreciate you so much for coming on and taking the time to do this.
Of course, fellas. Thank you for having me on. Thank you for promoting the great sport of wrestling, and we'll talk in another time, okay?
All right. For you guys that don't know, Tommy G, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching, and hit that subscribe button.
Subscribe. Peace.